Beyond the Hype, a fashion lifestyle tech podcast. Presented by Stephanie Williams and Greg Lewis.
Welcome to another deep dive, and this time we're tackling the world of digital fashion.
Oh, it's fascinating.
You know, you might be thinking, wait, isn't that just like clothes for video game characters?
Right.
But trust me, this goes way beyond that. We're really talking about a whole new way to express yourself creatively without any of the kind of limitations we bump up against in the real world.
Totally.
To explore this, we're going to be diving deep into an excerpt from the article, Customization and Interactivity in Digital Fashion, a New Frontier. And it does such a good job of really capturing just how fast this whole industry is changing and evolving.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So to kick things off, I mean, why now? What is it about this moment in time that's making digital fashion take off like this?
Well, I think it's fascinating how digital fashion is really addressing some of the biggest frustrations maybe that people have with physical clothes.
Yeah, I mean, cost is definitely a big one.
They're huge.
And then there's just the time it takes to create a piece.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure.
You know, and in the physical world, once you've made something, that's kind of it.
Yeah, you're done.
It's done. You can't really change it. You can't tweak it.
Yeah, it's pretty static.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas digital fashion just blows all that out of the water.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, with digital fashion, cost becomes less of a factor, and you're not limited by, the same kind of physical materials or production processes.
Yeah.
It's really all about that fluidity, that ability for clothing to kind of evolve and change with you.
I mean, I feel that.
Yeah.
How many times have you bought something and wished you could just tweak it a little?
All the time.
Maybe shorten it, change the color just a little bit.
Yes.
Digital fashion, you can do all that.
Exactly. It really does throw those restrictions right out the window.
So it's not just about making cool designs in a digital space.
Right.
It's about changing how we think about fashion altogether.
Right. Yeah, that's the exciting part. And I think we're, what we're seeing is really a level of customization that we've never seen before. So, imagine being able to design a garment from scratch, tailoring every detail to your exact vision, or even taking an existing design and tweaking it to make it your own.
Yeah.
You could add textures and elements that wouldn't even be possible in the real world.
Like holographic fabrics and stuff like that?
Totally. Things that we just can't do with physical materials.
That is wild.
Yeah.
So speaking of pushing the boundaries, the article mentions platforms like DressX and the Fabricant.
Yes.
What's the deal with those? I mean, are those places where all of this is actually happening?
Yeah, I mean, they're really leading the way in making digital fashion accessible. So DressX, for example, focuses on creating digital versions of clothing that are incredibly realistic.
Oh, wow.
While the Fabricant, they're known for pushing the boundaries with really avant-garde designs that you could never create physically.
That's so cool.
And they're both online spaces where you can go and you can explore, you can customize, and even purchase digital garments.
It's like a virtual fashion playground.
It really is.
So you're saying these platforms are kind of like a great entry point, a way for people to kind of start wrapping their heads around this whole concept and playing around with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it even goes beyond, just individual pieces. We're also seeing this play out in the metaverse.
Oh, right.
So you can imagine your digital avatar not just being static, but having, a wardrobe that can constantly evolve, maybe reflecting your mood or even reacting to the virtual environment you're in.
I mean, okay, I have to ask about this because this is the part where the article really blew my mind. It talks about this interactive element, these clothes that can react to your mood or your movements.
Yeah.
What would that even look like in real life?
Well, think about, a garment that literally changes color based on your emotions. Maybe it subtly shifts shades or even emits patterns of light as you move. We're really talking about blurring the lines between fashion and technology, where clothing actually becomes this dynamic part of your self-expression.
It's like your clothes are almost an extension of your inner self,
Exactly. And then there's augmented reality, AR, which is also starting to play a big role.
Right.
So we're talking about being able to, try on a digital garment through your phone or AR glasses and actually kind of bring that digital into the physical world.
So it's kind of like those filters that people use on social media
Totally.
to try on virtual sunglasses or makeup.
Exactly.
But it's not just for fun anymore, right?
Right. Yeah, this is taking it to a whole new level, and it opens up all sorts of possibilities, for virtual events, for social media, even just for making a video call a little more interesting.
Yeah.
You could have a whole digital wardrobe to choose from.
I love it. Okay, we have to talk about blockchain and NFTs because I know those are buzzwords.
Yeah.
But how do they actually fit into all of this?
Well, this is where the concept of ownership in the digital world gets really interesting.
Okay.
So with NFTs, imagine that digital garment that you love actually becomes this unique, verifiable asset.
Okay.
And it has scarcity, just like a limited edition piece of physical clothing. So it really changes the whole game when we're talking about value and authenticity in digital fashion.
Oh, okay. So it's not like you're just buying like a copy of a digital dress.
Right.
You're buying the original.
Exactly.
Like owning a one-of-a-kind piece of art.
Totally. Yeah.
That's really interesting. And that must open up all kinds of exciting possibilities, both for creators and for buyers, right?
It really does. And imagine, being able to buy a digital garment and then having limited, designer-approved ways to customize it.
Oh, that's really interesting.
So you're getting that creativity and that uniqueness, but the designer still kind of retains that control over their art. So it creates this, really interesting dynamic
Let's hear you mean.
between creator and consumer. But, like anything, there are also challenges, right?
Right, because the article talked about accessibility.
Right.
And the whole question of, how do you balance this exclusivity with the potential for infinite customization?
Yes, it's tricky.
That's something I'm curious to dig into a bit further. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I think accessibility is crucial if the tools and the tech needed to create and actually interact with digital fashion are too complex or too expensive.
Yeah.
It creates a barrier, right?
Yeah, it's like you're having this amazing party,
Right.
but only a select few can even get in the door.
Exactly.
Doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose? I mean, the whole idea of digital fashion making self-expression more accessible?
It does. And then you have this other question about how to balance this exclusivity with the potential for, literally infinite customization. Because, if anyone can just endlessly tweak a digital garment, does that diminish its value?
Right.
I mean, these are the questions the industry is really grappling with.
It's like finding that sweet spot, right?
Yeah.
Where digital fashion remains exciting and accessible for everyone, but also still acknowledges the value of scarcity and those like one-of-a-kind creations.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a tricky balance, for sure. But I think let's zoom out for a sec.
Okay. Yeah.
And look at the bigger picture here. Where do you see digital fashion going in the future? I mean, is this a passing trend, or are we seeing like a fundamental shift?
I think it goes much deeper than just a trend, honestly.
Yeah.
I think we're at this point where technology and creativity and, even consumer attitudes, it's all converging.
Mm-hmm.
And as those lines between the physical and digital world continue to kind of blur, it's just natural that our relationship with fashion would evolve too.
It makes you think about, like younger generations who've grown up like completely immersed in these digital spaces.
Right.
I mean, for them expressing themselves through a digital avatar, might feel just as natural as like picking out an outfit to wear, physically.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, as the tech keeps advancing, the possibilities are going to get even more incredible.
Yeah, like what are you excited about?
Oh, so many things. But I think we'll see more sophisticated design tools, virtual experiences that are even more immersive.
Wow.
And even, more seamless ways to integrate digital garments into our physical lives through augmented reality.
I mean, okay, I have to ask, what are some of the things on the horizon that have you like the most hyped?
One of the things I find most fascinating is the potential for fashion to actually become a form of communication, almost like a language in itself.
Whoa.
Yeah, imagine clothing that can convey, your emotions, your values, even your thoughts, like in a way that goes beyond words.
that's next level.
Right.
That's like your clothes could literally light up with joy when you're feeling happy.
Yes.
Or shift to like darker hues when you're feeling down. That takes self-expression to a whole new dimension.
Precisely. And think about the implications for accessibility too. Someone who might have difficulty communicating verbally could use digital fashion to express themselves in completely new ways.
Yeah.
It could be a game changer, honestly, for inclusivity and understanding.
I love that. It's not just about the aesthetics.
Right.
It's about like deepening human connection.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think we can't ignore the environmental impact, right? I mean, one of the biggest criticisms of traditional fashion is its toll on the planet.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how does digital fashion like stack up in that regard?
That's an essential question. The traditional fashion industry, it's a major polluter. From textile production to shipping to just, the mountains of clothing that end up in landfills.
Right.
And digital fashion does have this potential to significantly reduce that burden.
Because, there's no physical production involved.
Right.
There's no shipping. There's no need to discard physical garments.
Yeah, and that's huge. Of course, digital fashion, it still requires energy to power the servers, the devices we use. But the overall impact is likely to be, far less.
So it's not a perfect solution.
Right.
But it's definitely a step in a more sustainable direction.
Yeah, it is.
And as, renewable energy sources become more prevalent, the environmental footprint of digital fashion could shrink even further.
Right, absolutely. It's exciting. But I do think one of the biggest challenges digital fashion faces is overcoming a certain perception barrier.
Do you mean like the idea that digital clothes aren't real clothes because you can't physically wear them?
Yeah, exactly. There is sometimes this tendency to see digital fashion as somehow less valid or meaningful than traditional fashion. But I think that perspective, it misses the whole point.
It's like saying a painting isn't art because you can't physically hang it on your wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
Digital fashion is a form of art. It's a form of self-expression. Yeah. And it deserves to be appreciated, for what it is.
Precisely. It's about expanding our definition of, what fashion can be.
Yeah.
And, the article, I think, really drives home this point that, digital fashion isn't just about the clothes themselves. It's about reimagining our relationship with creativity and identity in the digital age.
It's about pushing boundaries. It's about breaking down limitations, and it's about embracing this future where fashion is as fluid and dynamic as our digital lives.
And that's something to get excited about. But I think before we wrap things up, it is important to take a moment and acknowledge some of the potential downsides and ethical considerations that come along with this rapidly evolving industry.
We've talked about all this incredible potential of digital fashion.
Yeah.
But like with any new technology, I think, there are always things to be mindful of, right?
Absolutely.
What are some of those potential downsides or areas where we need to be maybe extra careful?
Well, I think one area that's a concern is this potential for digital fashion to actually widen the gap between those who have access to technology and those who don't. If digital literacy or, even access to devices becomes a barrier, certain communities might be left behind in this whole fashion revolution.
Yeah, it's like you're building this bridge to this whole new world.
Right.
But not everyone has the tools to cross it. Mm-hmm. We need to make sure that digital fashion is inclusive and accessible to all, not just a select few.
Totally. And there's also, this issue of data privacy to think about.
Right, yeah.
As we're interacting with these digital fashion platforms and we're personalizing our, virtual wardrobes, we're generating a ton of data about, our preferences, our style, even our emotions.
And that data is valuable, right? Companies could use that for all sorts of things, like targeted advertising, or even trying to influence our buying habits, both in the digital and the physical fashion worlds.
Yeah, it's definitely a valid concern, and I think it's crucial to really be aware of how our data is being, collected and used.
Yeah,
and to really advocate for strong privacy protections, within the digital fashion industry.
So it's all about being, informed consumers, knowing our rights, and making those conscious choices about the platforms we support.
Yes, exactly.
We got to be savvy digital citizens.
We do. And we also can't forget about the environmental impact, right? Even though digital fashion may be less polluting than traditional fashion, I mean, it still relies on those data centers and devices that use energy.
So even though it's a step in the right direction, it's not like a completely green solution.
Right.
We need to be pushing for that sustainability in the digital fashion world, just like we do in the physical world.
I completely agree. Things like using renewable energy sources, optimizing data storage and processing, and even considering the lifespan of digital garments. It's all important.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I never even thought about a digital garment having like a life cycle. What happens to it when we're done with it? Is there a way to like recycle or repurpose those digital assets?
Yeah, that's a question the industry is really starting to grapple with.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a way to break down digital garments into their core components and then use those to create something new, kind of like digital upcycling.
I love that. It's like taking those principles of sustainability and applying them to the digital realm.
Totally.
Okay, well, I feel like we covered a lot of ground here, from the excitement and the potential to, the challenges and things we really need to be mindful of. But, at the end of the day, what does it all mean, for us, the people who want to explore this new world?
Well, I think for me, digital fashion represents a chance to rethink our relationship with clothing. It's an opportunity to really tap into our creativity, to express ourselves, more freely, and to really be more conscious of the impact our choices have, both virtually and in the real world.
It's about taking control of our personal style, both online and offline, and realizing that fashion can be this really powerful tool, not just for self-discovery, but for connection too.
Exactly. And the most exciting part is that this is just the beginning. As technology keeps evolving, I mean, the possibilities within digital fashion are truly limitless.
So if you're feeling inspired, I encourage you to dive in and see what this world has to offer.
Yeah.
Explore platforms like DressX and the Fabricant.
Yeah.
Play around with those AR filters and just let your creativity run wild.
And as you embark on that, your digital fashion journey, ask yourself, what would my ideal digital garment look like? And what story does it tell about me?
That's a great question to leave everyone with. And with that, we'll let you go forth and explore the vast and constantly evolving world of digital fashion.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Beyond the Hype, a fashion lifestyle tech podcast.